Hello and welcome. My name is Jacopo Mazzeo. I'm a journalist, photographer and consultant specializing in wine, drinks, hospitality and travel. On this channel I share reports from wine and drinks regions, interviews with producers and trade professionals and a range of other content all centered around the world of drinks. In this video I'm reporting from Ningxia, which is one of the most intriguing and fast emerging wine regions in China. I had the opportunity to visit the region while judging the Concours Mondial de Bruxelles, which is one of the largest wine competitions in the world. And I've actually made a video specifically about the Concours Mondial de Bruxelles. You can check it out. I'll link it in the description and also at the end of the video. You can also check out my Instagram page if you want to see some of my photography from the trip. While I was in Ningxia, I traveled pretty much across the whole region. I spoke to local winemakers, local wine professionals to really understand where the region is coming from, where it stands today and where it's heading. At the beginning of the video, I'll be giving you some background information about Ningxia, and then afterwards I'll be sharing some more personal opinions, honest opinions on the region. Much of the information here in this video you won't find it elsewhere, so make sure you stick around until the end. And then if you do like the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me create more videos, more content, and also other people discover the channel. China is a very vast country and wine is produced across many of its regions. In fact, China has the third largest vineyard area in the world, ranking even ahead of Italy. But among all of these regions, Ningxia has really established itself as one of the most promising when it comes to quality wine production. The region sits between 37 and 39 degrees latitude, right in line with Napa Valley in California and parts of southern Italy and southern Spain. It runs mostly north to south and is fairly compact, stretching about 450 kilometers or roughly 280 miles from top to bottom. The vineyards cover about 40,000 hectares. And to give you an idea, this is roughly the same amount as the total of the vineyard area in New Zealand. So it's quite significant, but still not comparable to bigger regions like Bordeaux in France, for instance. Most of these vineyards are found on the eastern side of the Helen Mountains. This is a dramatic, beautiful mountain range that separates the vineyards from the Gobi Desert or the desert-like climatic conditions that wouldn't make viticulture viable. So here's a map that gives you an idea of the different sub-regions in Ningxia. The most common varieties in Ningxia are the usual suspects, like what we call international varieties: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnay. But there are also less common varieties like Cabernet Grenache, Viognier, Petit Seng, and Italian Riesling. But just as the grape varieties, wine styles in Ningxia vary widely, so it's almost impossible to describe Ningxia with one style or one stylistic direction. The climate in Ningxia is extreme. It's characteristically continental. It lies about 600 miles from the nearest ocean, so it has very cold winters and very hot summers. It's also very, very dry, with annual rainfall of about 200 millimeters. So viticulture is really only possible thanks to the Yellow River, which provides the necessary water for irrigation. As I mentioned, the summers are really hot, but the high altitude of the vineyards, some of which reach about 1200 meters, make really a big difference. At these elevations you get strong sunlight during the day, followed by much cooler nights. That big temperature swing, which is known as diurnal shift, slows down the ripening process and helps the grapes develop a better balance of flavor, structure and acidity. Winters, on the other hand, are really harsh, really cold. Temperatures can drop down to -20 or even -30 degrees Celsius. These harsh conditions mean that the vines have to be buried under the ground to ensure that they can survive the winter. This is usually done around November, just before winter sets in. Then, once the cool season passes, they are dug out again in the spring, around April. It's actually common to see raised mounds of soil running through the middle of vineyard rows. This is the soil used to shield the vines during the long, bitter winters. To make winter burial more manageable, growers in Ningxia use a sort of L-shaped vine training system.
What we call 橙子性. Cheng is the Chinese character that is like that. So it shows that all the vines now are trained horizontally. So the grape settings is at one height. So we have, of course, lower yield, but better quality and better ripeness over each vine. So we can also manage more easily and more efficiently the harvest time, because all the fruit setting is at one height, so we harvest at once. So we believe that's the future, at least for us. I know that
this technique allows the trunk to be bent down more easily when it's time to cover the vines with soil, and just as easily uncovered in the spring.
They are already trained this way, so you just need to bend them a little bit, push down, so it's easier to, especially when the vine gets older, because a lot of the vines at the moment, maybe average year is 10 years in Ningxia, because it's still quite a young wine region. But at Cigar Estate, our vines, half of the 2,000 hectares are close to 30 years of age. So the older they get, the easier it gets to bury them during the winter with this training.
Row spacing is also a little bit wider than usual, around 3 meters, to facilitate this process. Clearly, this is a very labor-intensive process, so this drives up the cost a lot, the cost of each single bottle. As a result, then, the wines from Ningxia tend to be quite expensive, especially compared to European standards. So it's actually quite common to see bottles of wine that might be considered good, though perhaps not exceptional in Europe, to cost around £100 or the equivalent in euros or dollars. Another major factor that drives up the cost of the final bottle is the use of wooden barrels of oak. French oak is very common, but the problem is that for winemakers here in Ningxia, these can cost up to 3 times the equivalent of what they would cost in Europe. So again, this drives the price up by a lot. And I have to say, winemakers here in Ningxia do use a lot of oak. It's not uncommon to see top bottles that are made with 100% new oak. This might not be in line with modern aesthetics, stylistic choices in Europe, but on the other hand, the main target market for these winemakers is still the domestic market, where the use of oak is valued a lot more, the use of new oak and new oak flavors in the wine. This actually brings me to another point. Many winemakers told me that they do want the endorsement of European palates. They want Europeans or Western professionals to like their wines and give their wines awards. But eventually they're not really interested in exporting much to Europe or to North America. They just want that endorsement because it can be really useful on the domestic market or within the wider Asian region, which is their proper target market where they do big volumes. So all in all, I don't really see the wines of Ningxia conquering the world anytime soon. And of course, price is a big factor in this, but there is also prejudice and other reasons, of course. But I have to say, the government does offer some interesting tax incentives, so at least the price factor can be tackled, at least partially. In comparison, it is actually more convenient for Ningxia wineries to sell their wines abroad. Actually, thanks to this push, some producers have been able to successfully export to European markets. I know of some pretty good wineries like Silver Heights, for instance. They're doing quite well in the UK. Definitely a much bigger focus than export is wine tourism. During my visit, I was able to see how wineries and the government itself are investing massively in developing wine tourism facilities. For instance, Chateau du Lan is a full-fledged wine-themed complex that integrates viticulture, winemaking, culture, wine education, accommodation, gastronomy, and immersive wine experiences. Then there is Faith's Way. This is a beautiful winery filled with countless pieces of art, including stunning artistic rocks that the owning family has collected over time. Another impressive example is Chandon. This is a sparkling wine producer owned by the French company of the same name, and it's actually one of the many Western wine producers that have invested in the region. And the winery is really designed with visitors in mind. It features an exquisitely crafted exterior wall that evokes Ningxia vineyards in winter, when the vines are buried underground, and a spacious terrace that offers a spectacular panoramic view of the Helan Mountains. And it's not just wineries that are investing in tourism. The government, as I mentioned, is doing it as well. They are currently developing a sort of a wine resort town in the south of Ningxia. They are managing to do that by offering quite cheap vineyard land to the producers. Normally producers have to lease the land from the government to be able to plant the vines. So this is quite convenient and very attractive for producers. But the region doesn't quite feel just as a tourist destination. The quality has improved massively in a very short period of time, and it shows that it has potential to improve even more over the next few years. All this dynamism gives the region a distinct new frontier vibe, especially considering producers have a blank canvas to work with, as this was basically desert land just a few decades ago. It's true that many wineries focus on, let's say, classic styles, but I've also seen a lot of diversity, a lot of different approaches, and a lot of experimentation. So there is really something for everyone. For example, I've tried some orange wine at Silver Heights. I also tried sort of grower champagne style, really different approaches. Some producers are experimenting also with different maturation vessels, for instance amphoras or even stainless steel barrels. The downside, of course, of all this dynamism and experimentation is that the region doesn't quite have an identity yet. That said, some winemakers have begun to identify some standout grape varieties. Of course, Marselan is a big one, but to be fair, Marselan is considered an important grape variety across the whole of China rather than just Ningxia. And some have mentioned other varieties that are lesser known or lesser common maybe in other parts of China, but still very, very promising. I've spoken to some of them and this is what they had to say.
The white variety, I think the Viognier is the most potential variety in this region because the Viognier skin can they can against the heat and they can keep the acidity. I worked for different wineries, they make different Viognier. They all have a good result with the acidity. Even in some vintage, it's very, very hot and dry. And of course, because the skin of the Viognier, they are not easy to get the disease. So they are healthy and aromatic. So why not we can play them?
So Cabernet Garnish was one of the grapes that were imported about 100 years ago when the first product of Chinese modern wine industry started in the country, and that was one of the grapes that were imported. The expert felt that it looks like a Cabernet family grape, but they didn't know what it was exactly, so they gave it a name that is called Cabernet Garnish. And in Chinese, they gave it the name, this called She, Long Zhu. She is snake, Long is dragon, and Zhu is the official translation for all Cabernet grape varieties in China. So the Chinese name is very Chinese and shows a lot of Chinese culture because snake and dragon are from the zodiac, Chinese zodiac. And it's the only grape that bring some very unique Eastern aromas. Is the unique grape that brings some flowers and also some Chinese medicinal herbs aromas to the wine. So that's very Eastern flavors, that very Chinese flavors.
So my final thoughts, overall quite positive. Ningxia is a vibrant wine region with a clear vision for the future. Quality has improved significantly, but as I said, it does have really good potential to improve even more. The region is confident, it's growing fast, and you can see this in the landscape. Actually, a very common sight is a nice working vineyard, lush and green, just next to a vineyard that is currently being planted. Very, very common in Ningxia and not something that I've seen so often in other parts of the world. I see the wine industry in Ningxia growing at the same pace and with the same confidence as other industries in China, say for instance electric vehicles or AI. So I'm quite confident that it will probably improve a lot over the next few years. It will be quite interesting to see how things have changed and developed in, let's say, 5 years from now. So hopefully I'll manage to visit again. So this is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, that you found it interesting. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye.